Hello everybody, welcome back to What If Deku was the Portal Master, and this is going to be part 7. The proper part 7, because the last part was part 6, and I did a dumb. So, anyways, I have a few announcements before we get to the What If. First of all, I'm going to be trying to make the What If Deku was the Portal Master a weekly upload. Second of all, I'm going to be, holding off all future what ifs temporarily so I can more focus on the 3 that I'm currently writing. And the last one is that I'm going to be posting part of descriptions for each part of the what ifs that I'm doing on my Discord channel. I will make a special chat specifically for the part descriptions. So if you want like an idea of what's going to happen, then you can just hop on there and check. You don't have to do anything. Just saying that right now. I'm just pointing it out. I am most likely as in, unless I'm pushed to by the fans, not going to have any other socials other than Discord. So yeah, let's just get into this. So last time when we left off, Deku and Trap Shadow had just went to a Skylander camp. The Skylanders in that camp included Spitfire, Spyrise, Funny Bone, Chopper, Frino, Lightning Rod, and Pop Fizz. They didn't end up bringing any Skylanders back with them, as they did know that those Skylanders wanted to stay at the camp, so they decided to create a deal where they'll send the Skylanders resources if they need them. So, also another thing, in the last part I said Hot Rod instead of Hot Streak. I am so sad and disappointed about that. It hurts. Like, not literally, it just hurts in the way of, how did I get that wrong? Anyways, so, Trap Shadow is now also a Skylander. And, yeah, let's get to the proper what if. So, Deku is training at the academy when Hugo rushes into the area where Deku's training in, and almost, like, excitedly, I don't know how to describe it. He's super excited, and yet he's also semi-concerned. And he's like, "Yeah, Portal Master, we found something. Get to the meeting room, quickly!" And he runs off. So Deku, he's now confused because Hugo never runs in the halls. So he's running to the meeting room with Hugo, and once he enters, he sees Chop Chop and a holographic map of Skylanders, not Skylanders, Skylands already up. Why am I so bad right now? So, there are 3 locations on the map that have been marked out, and Chop Chop says, "We've found three of the most powerful team of Skylanders to date, the Giants." Deku, he's like, "The Giants? I think I remember hearing about them." And Chop Chop says, "They're the ones who took out the Archeans. They are the strongest out of the Skylanders with the deepest connection to their element. If you want anybody on your side, it's them." Deku says, "Okay. So, those 3 locations have to be where they are, right?" And Chop Chop says, "Yes. I've already sent the Chompy and a few scouts out to search the areas to make sure that they aren't moving anytime soon." And Deku's like, "Wow, the Chompy really is a scout now." For those of you who are curious or just don't remember, The first thing that Deku ever summoned was a Chompy that was completely tamed, and I haven't used it in so long, I decided to use it now. So, the Chompy is going to become an important character, because I want it to. If you have not seen Swamp Force Chompies, my god, they are adorable. But, anyways, back to the what if. Yeah, Chop Chop, he says, we need to get out there and bring them back to the academy, or at least convince them to consider it. And Deku says, well, since the scouts are out today, we should probably head out tomorrow. It'd be a good idea for us to have some proper supplies if they're such a big deal. Chop Chop agrees, and he still really wants to go today, like after the scouts return. But he decides to set up the map so it monitors teleportation activity. And he says, now we'll have an idea of whether or not they've teleported off the island, or if something's teleporting on. It should be a little bit before anything happens. Deku and Chop Chop start to walk out of the room when one of the locations is constantly beeping with teleportation activity. Chop Chop turns around and looks at the map. That's a lot of activity. Almost like an entire settlement. Or maybe. Chop Chop goes over to the map and opens up the teleporter activity to see if there's any way he can find out what's using the teleporters. He finds out that there's a bunch of battleships. And Deku, behind him, says, looks like they're under attack. We have to go, now. Chop Chop agrees and grabs his stuff. And by stuff I mean his sword and shield, because he isn't going to have his sword and shield on him at all times in the academy. Like, he will have him on him at most of the time, but, like, seriously, if you are, like, armed to the teeth constantly in your home base, how would your allies feel? They wouldn't trust you, because they think that you don't trust them. So, Deku and Chop Chop, they're going to the portal to teleport over there. And Hugo says, wait, Portal Master, you don't need to bring the Book of Skylanders with you. I can hold on to it. Deku says, it would be a good idea to have the book here while I'm out in Skylands. He hands Hugo the book and then proceeds to continue over to the teleporter. Deku and Chop Chop then teleport over to the area, and it seems like smaller than the other islands that they've gone to. Sure, there's a large body of water in it, but it's possibly the smallest islands Deku's been on. And I'm gonna say that he hasn't been on any of the islands that can only hold, like, a singular tree and, like, 3 creatures. He's been on the larger islands. So, Deku, he's walking to the body of water. And Chop Chop says, I wonder what's out there. Chop Chop then looks around and sees the battleships. They're heading towards a different direction entirely. Chop Chop also looks around again and sees a large body of islands that he can hop across. Chop Chop points this out, and Deku says, island hopping? Really? All I need is a good visual on the island, and I can teleport us both over there. Chop Chop says, this isn't a good time to be practicing your powers. And Deku says, right, I still can't teleport more than two people consistently. And even then, you don't actually count as a person. Fine. I'll teleport myself over there, and then pull you over as well. Chop Chop then says, no, you should teleport me to the island first, so that I can clear it out, or defend you. Deku huffs, like, not in a rude way, but in a, why do you have to do this? Like, you know, he doesn't like that he has to stay on the island longer, but he still agrees. And Deku, he eventually teleports Chop Chop and himself over to the island. And he sees that it's like a massive ocean with an oil rig. And that oil rig seems to be damaged. Chop Chop says, that's probably what they're here to try for. They're either trying to destroy the oil rig so that it doesn't produce any more oil, or they're trying to make sure that it doesn't spill all of its oil into the nearby ocean. Nearby? It's in the ocean. What? Seriously? You're gonna correct me on my language skills and even... Yes, I am going to correct you on your language skills, because you know this language better than I do sometimes. You know, they have a funny little conversation while they're trying to figure out how to get over there. And they see a boat. Not like a super big boat. It's like 2 people can fit on it, and there's a motor. So Deku, he walks over to the boat, he inspects it, he makes sure it's usable. He gets in, and he says, well, looks usable. And even if it's not, I should be able to use my water powers to get us over there. And Chop Chop says, wait, can you just use your water power to create a platform of ice we can walk across? Deku, he does not like this. You know, he's like, why didn't I think of that? I also could have used my wind powers to get us over here faster. You know, so Deku, he uses his power to create a platform to get over there, or at least close enough. He can't turn the oil-infused water to ice. So he and Chop Chop, they get over there. Then Deku uses his wind powers to pretty much create a small tornado underneath them that lifts them up to the actual oil rig. And once they get on, they see a troll tank just fly overhead and crash into the ice platform, completely destroying it. Deku's like, how does that work? And Chop Chop says, well, you didn't have supports. Deku's like, but it was thick ice. Let's just forget about it. Probably some plot convenience thing. Deku says, why are you acting like there's a 4th wall? And Chop Chop says, just ignore that. So, Deku and Chop Chop, they slowly make their way over to where they saw the tank come from. You know, they're making sure they aren't seen by anything. And they see that there's a lot of trolls. So they're like, okay, so Chaos needs oil for something. Or he's trying to pollute the area because a giant's here. And Chop Chop says, this can either be the water giant or the air giant. Although I'm pretty sure it's the water giant. And Deku says, why don't you just call them by their name? And Chop Chop says, because they don't like getting called by their name if you don't know them or they don't respect you. And as of right now, I'm pretty sure that the giants don't respect anything. Like, not in a rude way, they just don't want to be called by their names. You know, and Deku's just like, fine. So where is the water giant anyway? I think he might have went further into the rig, but then again, he could be going higher up to destroy it from the top. It seems like it's held up by a few pillars. However, the most essential one seems to be in the middle. And Chop Chop says, well, all we need to do is make sure that they don't destroy the oil rig so that the ocean doesn't get polluted. And we need to shut down these trolls' operations. Deku says, okay. How should we do this then? Chop Chop then says, well, I could go after the control room. In there I should be able to turn off the oil rig. You go after the water giant. And Deku says, wouldn't it be better for you to go after the water giant? You know, since they do know you. And Deku's like, I'm sure you'll be able to handle him. Not Deku, Chop Chop. Anyways, so Chop Chop, he starts making his way over to the control room. And Deku, he starts to go in the opposite direction towards the walkway. You know, eventually he reaches a battle arena. You know, he walks in, and the trolls are like, I didn't expect you to be here. Well, I guess we're gonna have ourselves a brand new fighter in the ring. A few trolls hop down and they rush at Deku. Deku uses his wind powers to blow two of them away, because he didn't see the third one. The third one comes up behind him and tries to strike him in the back. Deku notices the last possible second and dodges out of the way. The troll continues to swing his giant wrench at Deku, with Deku dodging, eventually using his firepower to create a ball of flame around his fist and punching the troll in the face, sending it back. The trolls then send in some more units. They send in some long-range units and a bunch of chompies. Deku uses his earth abilities to create a rock formation around himself so that the grenades that the trolls are throwing at him don't blow up in his face. He then pulls down one of the rocks and uses his wind powers to shoot at one of the grenade throwing trolls, hitting it against the wall. It's not out though. He then pulls the wall back up and uses his wind powers to shoot a few grenades that get over the wall away from himself. He then pulls down a different segment of wall and grabs the troll on the other side, bringing it into the formation before replacing the rock. Deku then turns around and begins to fight the troll. The troll swings his wrench at his left side, and Deku dodges, parrying the attack with a kick to the stomach. The troll is sent back a little bit, but then rushes back in to attack again. The troll jumps up into the air, and Deku uses his air power to shoot the troll out of the rock formation again, landing on one of the grenade-throwing trolls, knocking them both out. Deku then lifts up a piece of rock and smashes it over one of the trolls that are throwing grenades at him, knocking it out. Deku then pushes the rest of the wall out, revealing that there's only 2 trolls left, as he had knocked the rest out with his surprise attack. Deku rushes at the 2 trolls. The one that throws grenades is running away, whilst the one who holds a wrench is running at Deku. The troll tries to attack Deku, but Deku easily attacks the troll with a swift kick to the side, shooting it away from the grenade-throwing troll. He didn't think about hitting the 2 trolls together. He then proceeds to run after the troll. The last troll. The last troll tries to throw a bunch of grenades at Deku, but Deku manages to dodge all of them and hit the troll in the face with some water power creating ice around his hand. The troll is sent flying, denting the wall behind him, knocking it unconscious. In the last-ditch effort, the trolls send out a mech, saying, "You ain't winning this." The troll tank then starts firing at Deku. Deku uses his earth to create a rock formation in front of him to block some of the blows, but it's quickly destroyed by the tank's rounds. Deku then runs around some more, dodging as many shots as he can whilst creating rock formations he can quickly hide behind. Deku then creates a platform, a pathway of ice, hoping that the tank won't be able to steer on it. Unfortunately, its treads are spiked and it easily rides over it. Deku is still running away, thinking to himself, damn it, how am I supposed to fight that thing? Oh right, I have tech abilities. I should have remembered. Deku then runs behind one of the rock formations. The tank follows and shoots at the rock formation, destroying it. However, Deku isn't behind it. The tank then goes around patrolling the area, and Deku jumps onto the tank. He uses the tech powers he has to short-circuit the tank, causing it to explode. Deku is sent flying back, but manages to land on his feet. The troll that was in the tank is rendered unconscious, however in a critical condition. The troll says, Fine, you can go. Just don't attack anyone else here." Deku says, what do you mean, here? And the troll says, "The arena. Like, we ain't stupid. We aren't gonna make sure that we can't attack you whilst you take out our operation." Deku, he nods and walks out of the arena. Once he gets out of the arena, there's a few flights of stairs he has to go up. Whilst fighting some more trolls on the way. He manages to take minimal injury, the worst being a bite from a chompy. However, it didn't pierce his skin. Deku eventually reaches a large room. He looks in it to make sure that nothing's in there. And he sees a troll mech fighting something. He doesn't know what it is, but he sees a large amount of trolls running around it. He walks in and shoots at the trolls with his wind power, launching them away from the troll mech and its opponent. Deku looks over to who the troll mech's fighting. He sees a large humanoid whale with an anchor. The mysterious creature then knocks the troll mech back and grabs an anchor that it had over its shoulder and smashes it over the head of the mech, knocking it down to the ground. The mysterious creature then kicks the mech, launching it into the roof of the arena, and then watching it fall to the ground. The nearby trolls that are in the area try to rush over and attack the mysterious creature, but it flops onto its belly and summons water around it, sliding around the arena, crushing the trolls that get in front of him. The mysterious creature then gets up and hits another troll mech with its anchor. The anchor hit the mech's generator, causing it to explode. The mysterious creature then sees Deku. Deku is also fighting off some trolls using different elemental abilities. The creature walks up and says, "So, you must be a portal master," before smacking away all the trolls with its anchor. And Deku says, Yeah, I didn't think you'd be so quick to understand. Thumpback then looks at Deku and says, so you're here to collect me? And Deku says, well, you aren't a Skylander, and all I'm really here to do is bring you back to the academy. Whether you become one or not, or even if you agree to go, is up to you. Deku then uses his Earth abilities to create a bunch of Earth spikes and destroy a troll tank. Deku says, why didn't I do that earlier? It would have been so much easier. The mysterious creature says, well then, name's Thumpback. I'm the water giant. It's nice to meet you. Thumpback then reaches out its hand and Deku shakes it. Deku then asks, so, what are you doing here? And Thumpback says, I'm trying to take this oil rig down. Once I got I made an agreement with the local Mabu settlement. Once I knock out the 4 pillars, they'll be able to use a magnet-based spell to remove this oil rig from the ocean. And Deku says, there was nothing indicating a spell above the oil rig. Thumpback then says, I thought they'd have it up by now. Deku then says, the trolls do have battleships. The Mabu are probably trying to defend themselves from the trolls. And Thumpback says, well then, you bring anyone else with you? Deku says, yeah, I brought Chop Chop. He's currently going to the control room to try and turn off the oil rig. Thumpback says, Chop Chop. Okay. We should be able to meet him there. Chop Chop's very skilled and knows how to move around on these things, even though they aren't all the same. I'm heading for the top pillar. I've already taken out 2 of the pillars directly across from each other. Diagonally, anyways. If I can take out the top pillar, the oil rig will be weak enough to remove, but not so weak that it'll fall into the water. Deku then says, alright. Now then, let's get out of here while we still can. We don't want reinforcements coming. Deku and Thumpback leave the room, and they're greeted by an entire battalion of troll mechs and tanks. Deku looks over to Thumpback and says, so, you able to handle these? And Thumpback says, I've faced a group larger than this on my own. We should be able to get through this easily. Thumpback then starts walking towards the battalion of mechs and the tanks start firing at Thumpback. Thumpback, however, is barely affected by the tank rounds, and he swings his anchor at some of the tanks, knocking the tops completely off of them. Thumpback then looks over to the other side, and he swings his anchor again, knocking the tops off of those as well. Deku then jumps over top of Thumpback and uses his fire ability to shoot a large blast of fire at one of the mechs. The mech is sent back, nearly falling off of the platform. The back of the mech was dented, and that's where he holds most of the power for it. The mech then explodes, shooting the troll over top of the 2. Thumpback then swings its anchor at the now unorganized group of mechs, chopping off a few of the mech's legs. Deku uses his tech abilities to hack into one of the mechs, kicking the troll out and using it to attack the other mechs in the area. The mechs are swiftly destroyed, and Thumpback and Deku are easily able to continue on. They eventually reach the top of the oil rig, with very few interruptions. However, these interruptions were made by smaller groups of trolls. Deku then looks in the area and says, if this were a video game, this would probably be a boss arena. And Thumbback says, well, better get yourself prepared then. Deku uses his magic to summon a sword, and he and Thumbback walk onto the arena. Giant troll mech then falls onto the arena, and it looks more specialized than the regular troll mechs. It's more compact and looks almost humanoid. Thumbback says they modeled it after him, and it's larger than him too. Great. Deku then looks at the mech. And for those of you who want to know what it looks like, just imagine a metal tree Rex without the tree horns, and both sides have the special gauntlet with spikes. So anyways, Deku looks at the mech and says, I could use my tech abilities to hack into it, but I don't think that'll be enough. They might have some backup generators, or they have some kind of immunity. This is their special unit after all. They have to be prepared for anything. And Thumbback says, I'll try distracting it. You get in close enough to try it. If that doesn't work, do everything you can. I got this. Thumbback then slowly starts to walk towards the mech. The mech in a robotic voice says, well. To a former Skylander and a portal master. Looks like your time is up. I am a general of the Troll Armada, and you shall not be able to escape me. Thumbback then looks at him and says, yeah, speak all you want. You ain't gonna be able to beat us. Thumbback then grabs the handle of his anchor and smashes it into the leg of the mech, barely denting it. The mech then punches Thumbback, sending him back, landing on his back. Thumbback then gets up and rushes at the mech again. Whilst Thumbback and the mech are having a very one-sided battle, Deku sneaks up behind it and tries to use his tech abilities on the mech to try and hack into it. It doesn't work. Deku then sighs and uses his tech abilities to summon two turrets that start firing at the mech. Deku runs to the mech's side and jumps onto its arm, proceeding to climb onto the head. The mech says, well, look who we have here. The Portal Master's being desperate. The mech then tries to grab Deku off of its arm, but Deku manages to get onto its head just in time. The mech then tries to grab Deku off of its head, but Deku jumps over its grabbing hand and uses the power of fire to create a fireball around its hand, slamming it down into the top of the mech. The mech's head is very flat, but he saw that it did a considerable amount of damage. He then looks around the mech to see if there are any more weak points. He sees that the mech has an unreasonably large bump on its back. He thinks that might be where they're holding the power source. Deku then climbs onto the mech's back, and using the power of wind, he propels his foot to create a powerful kick, denting the metal in the back of the mech. With the dented back, Deku then uses the power of Earth to create a gauntlet around his hand and tries pulling the metal off. He successfully does this, revealing a glowing power source. Deku uses the power of fire to create a condensed fire bullet and shoots it at the power source. A female robotic voice then says, "Warning, power battery critically damaged. Resorting to backup a generator." Deku says, "Backup generator." Great. The mech then finally manages to grab Deku, throwing him at Thumpback. Thumpback catches Deku with no knockback, and then starts to run at the mech, punching it in the face, with barely any knockback to the mech. The mech then reels back its arm to punch Thumpback. Thumpback, with quick thinking, he flops onto its belly and slides away, dodging the attack. Thumpback says, "I can barely hit this thing. Whatever you did, you need to tell me. I might be able to do something." Deku then says, "It's back. Its main power generator is in its back. If we can do enough damage to it, it might be able to explode. It's already in a critical condition." Thumpback says, "Something as large as me, I won't be able to target its back unless we manage to cripple its movement. And so far, it moves as fast as me." Deku then says, "I'll worry about that. You just make sure it doesn't try to attack me. Don't get yourself hurt too badly either." Deku then runs towards the mech again. The mech tries to attack Deku, but Deku easily manages to dodge under the mech's attack. Deku, now behind the mech, just starts to attack its waist joint, because that would cripple its movement slightly. You would have to rely exclusively on its legs to turn. Eventually, Deku does manage to destroy the hip joint. Deku, then using his sword for the first time in the battle, slashes at the mech's knee joints, breaking them entirely. Deku then says, "I summoned the sword at the start of the fight. Why didn't I use it?" Deku then runs towards the edge of the arena and says, "Hey, over here." That was really bad, I'm sorry. Anyways, the mech just turns around and looks towards Deku, saying, "You really get on my nerves." The mech charges at Deku, and Deku dodges out of the way just in time. The mech hits the wall, nearly tripping over the edge, and Thumpback runs at it, swinging its anchor into the dented hole in its back. A female robotic voice comes from the mech saying, "Warning, main power source in critical condition. Any more damage sustained to the power battery will cause an explosion." Thumpback barely manages to pull his anchor out of the mech in time to dodge the attack the mech throws. The mech then turns around and says, "You two are annoying. Airship 2. Fire at will." A bunch of cannonballs start to fall onto the arena. Deku is easily dodging these, and Thumpback is barely affected by them. The mech then turns around slowly and punches Thumpback in the stomach, sending him flying back. Thumpback lands on his stomach and takes a few seconds to get back up. Deku, however, is basically running circles around the mech. The mech isn't able to hit Deku, and Deku is mainly staying behind it, dealing small amounts of damage to it to make sure that the Thumpback has a larger opening to attack the main power source. Deku eventually makes the hole in the metal where the power source is a little bit larger, revealing the secondary power source. Thumpback then comes charging in. As the mech turns to face Deku. Thumpback manages to hit both the main and secondary power batteries, and pulls his anchor out. The mech an alarm sound starts to come up from the mech, and it says, "Why, you little," as it explodes. Thankfully, neither Deku or Thumpback were damaged too badly. However, they were both hurt by the explosion. Deku then walks over to Thumpback and says, "You okay?" Thumpback weakly responds, "I guess. I should have enough strength to destroy this pillar, but I don't think I'll be able to do anything else." Deku says, "Alright. Looks like you are going back to the academy. You'll need to. If you want to get healed up, that is." Thumpback, he laughs and says, "I guess." Thumpback walks over to where the pillar is, approximately, and smashes the ground, denting the pillar all the way down to the bottom. Thumpback, barely being able to stand, says, "Okay, kid. I've done my part. Get me back to the academy, along with that Chop guy. I barely knew him, but I know he was good. Strange. Thumpback then falls onto his stomach, knocked out from all the energy he used up. Deku quickly runs over and says, "Well, I don't want to send you there without mention, but here goes nothing." Deku then uses his powers to teleport Thumpback back to the academy. And then he says, "I better look for Chop." Deku then runs off of the platform. Okay, so over with Chop, he had just managed to find the control room. He's had little interruption, and has managed to avoid getting into combat. He walks over to the control panel and says, "This is far more complicated than I thought." He looks around to see if anyone's there, and he sees a security camera. He says, "Okay, so there's a security room. If I go there, I should be able to find someone who can give me information on how to use this thing." Chop walks out of the control room and starts running through the oil rig again, when he hears a lot of cannon fire. He looks up and sees that the cannon fire is focused on the top of the oil rig. He says, "Damn it, what is he doing?" Chop then starts to run towards the next place that can take him up, concerned for Izuku. Chop then runs to the same arena that that Izuku and Thumpback were in, seeing all the trolls that he and Thumpback took out. And he says, "Classic." Chop then continues to run through the oil rig, eventually reaching the platform, but Izuku had already left. He sees the platform was damaged, but he doesn't see any signs of Thumpback going anywhere else. And he sees what looks to be skid marks on the ground, resembling teleportation. He says, "He probably teleported him out of there, and he's looking for me. Where is he?" Chop then runs off the platform. He searches around the area, looking down onto the oil rig, hoping to see Izuku on one of the outdoor platforms. He sees Izuku. He does manage to see Izuku. He's halfway down to the bottom. Izuku is currently fighting off a few mechs and some tanks. Chop says, "Damn it," and jumps off off of the part of the oil rig that he's on, landing on the roof of another part. He begins to jump down the oil rig, pulling out his sword and shield. Chop Chop eventually reaches where Zuko is. Zuko had barely been able to take out some of a singular tank. There were still 2 left, and there was at least 5 mechs. Chop Chop then jumps out, landing on one of the mechs and stabbing its sword into the cockpit. He then rips it out, just pulls the cockpit apart and pulls the troll out, throwing it at one of the other mechs. That mech falls over. Chop Chop then leaps to another mech. Using his sword, he cuts off the mech's arm before landing on the ground. He stabs his sword into the arm and summons a bunch of bone spikes, shooting through the mech's legs and torso, as well as shooting through one of the tanks. Deku then rushes to the last mech currently standing. He jumps up and lands on his fist that he had thrown to try and punch Chop Chop. Chop Chop then runs down its arm and onto its back. He then uses his shield to dent its main power source and jumps off of it onto the tank. Chop Chop then opens up the hatch for the driver and pulls the troll out, throwing him away. Chop Chop then gets into the tank and turns over to the troll he had thrown to one of the mechs. The mech had just gone back up again. Chop Chop fires the tank at the mech, destroying its chest. The mech falls down onto its knees and falls over as the troll piloting it tries to climb out. The other troll helps the troll get out of the mech, and Chop Chop gets out of the troll's tank saying, "Alright, you two, go now," as the 2 trolls run away. Chop Chop looks over to Izuku, panting, almost out of energy. And he says, "Okay, we need to get you back to the academy, now." Chop Chop, while running over to him, Chop Chop then grabs Izuku to make sure he doesn't fall, and Izuku teleports both him and Chop Chop to the academy, one after the other. Once Izuku teleports back to the academy, he is knocked out and is taken to the infirmary. It is about half an hour later when Izuku gets up and sees Stealth Elf right beside the hospital bed that he's on. Stealth Elf's asleep, and he sees that it's late at night. Deku is concerned because he's worried Inko, and he slowly tries to get out of the hospital bed. But Chop Chop walks into the room and gets him back onto the bed, saying, "Oh, don't you worry. We had a portal set up, remember?" Deku agrees, saying, yeah, right. But wasn't I the only one who was able to use it? Chop Chop says, there are some workarounds, but thankfully only the Skylanders are the ones who know how to do it. I managed to tell Inko about your situation. You should stay the night. Get rest. Deku, he agrees, and he's like, man, Mom's gonna kill me. As he gets back on, lies back down in the bed, and goes to sleep. But before he can fully fall asleep, Stealth Elf wakes up, and she smiles a little bit. Chop Chop says, Come on, Elf. It's far more comfortable for you to sleep in your room. You've been with him the entirety of the time he's been in the hospital so far." Stealth Elf, kind of pouting, she leaves the room. Chop Chop says goodnight to Izuku and turns off the lights in the infirmary room. Well, at least the lights at the door. And walks away. Whew. Almost an hour. So, yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. The last two parts have been part of the same day, so, like, yikes. Anyways. Yeah, that's it for this part. I do not know what else to say. I am trying to do an outro. Oh no. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye.